Now, as you know, there are a variety of learning models in the world. Some of you may be familiar with David Kolb's model. I find it a very powerful one just in terms of face validity. His idea is that we have concrete experiences from the time we're infants, and these concrete experiences, they just occur. As time goes on, things happen. You know, mother feeds me or doesn't feed me. Someone responds to something I've said in class or doesn't. I fall down or not. And then, whether or not, back to Alinsky's point, we think about this or not will affect what we can take away from it. Now, if we reflect on it and think about it, we may draw some conclusions about, well, if I run too fast, I'm likely to trip. If I don't tie my shoes, I'll step on my laces and fall down. If I cry out loud, then mother will come. So we might call these abstract conceptualizations what Richard Dawkins and others might call a strategic meme or a instrumental meme. That is, if this happens, then that will occur. So now we've taken an event, we've thought about it, we've created a premise, call it an assumption, call it a value, call it a belief, call it an expectation, if you will, that if I do this, then that will happen. And in that case, now consciously or semi-consciously, we've added to our worldview, which will mean that subsequently we're likely to try it out. So if the last time I threw my pacifier out of the crib, Mom picked it up, I may not be consciously aware of this, but I try it again, and lo and behold, it works. Now that new experience has reinforced, and Kolb would argue we go around and around this circle hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times daily even. Kolb would then, you may be aware, divide this model into two, shall we say, opposing axes. So the difference between a concrete experience versus an abstract conceptualization is pretty obvious. Opposite on a pole of abstraction, if you will. And the same horizontally, the difference between a reflective observation and an active experiment would seem to be opposing anchors on a scale of application, okay? And so then he divides these into four quadrants and argues that you could calculate AE minus RO and AC minus CE to determine a particular kind of characteristic learning style. Again, the question is, in your own mind, what's your theory in use? Do you have a theory in abstraction? You certainly have a theory in use. Are you aware of what that is? Is it clear to you? And are you behaving in a way that reflects your theory in abstraction with what you're actually doing in the classroom? So in Kolb's model, you could measure these things and develop an individual profile and calculate where one might be in terms of the quadrants, or literally the shape of one's score based on responses to questions designed to touch on these four anchor points. And individuals might have profiles that are more heavily active, accommodating, if you will, to reality and trying to change it. They might have theories of learning that are lesser developed, shall we say. There are lots of ways that people learn, but the point is, if you like or don't like Kolb, and there are some who do and some who don't, and articles have been written on both sides of the fence, what's your model? Do you have one? And is that been used as you design your courses, as you design your assignments, as you select materials that you want your students to read, as you pick the student audiences that you want to work with? Or are you rolling along semi-consciously or maybe even mindlessly, simply repeating the patterns that you learned when you were in school without thought as to whether or not they were effective or ineffective?